What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It's recruiting season. Recruiting is about to accelerate and get insane. You're going to see the schedule creep up. Usually there's just like kind of an intro for recruiting, but because of that signing period and the fact that visits are in the summer, this is the start of the hot period. It doesn't end until August, right, when teams start practicing for their senior season. So recruiting is officially off and running. We'll be talking about some of the players that Miami is on the road visiting, some guys that Miami has momentum with, maybe some potential early commits to really get this class rocking and rolling. Some folks that are always on Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
Good afternoon, D. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Excited to talk recruiting here and really start to get in depth on this class, because that was always when I was really covering the recruiting and interviewing these guys, talking to these guys I was the same age as them, so it was easy to kind of like keep updated and stay in touch with these guys. But like when I was dealing with a lot of them, I used to always get really excited for the calendar to turn over and get to learn the new class of players, the new priorities for Miami. And these visits that we're going to start to talk about here in just a moment really give you an idea of who the priority targets at this stage of the process are.
Yeah, before we get into the next set of targets, let's talk who's committed right now. You got 3 commits, all pretty high quality. Jordan Campbell, top 100 player out of Carroll City, linebacker, 6'2", 200. Saw him in the Under Armour All-America game, because those who don't know, you're now allowed to play in those All-America games, even if you're an underclassman. So he played as a junior, was outstanding, long, instinctive, can run. SEC's coming at him hard. Miami's going to have to fight to keep Jordan Campbell, but they will fight because he is a big-time player, top 100 player. Camden Portis, of course, the son of Clinton Portis, Charlotte, North Carolina, Myers Park. He is a cornerback, a 4-star cornerback, 155th nationally in terms of overall top 15 corner, 6 foot, 165. Really looked good both in pads and also in the 7-on-7 circuit. A technician, good feet, versatile, plays all over. Just a really, really rock-solid corner. What Miami hopes will be a big-time cornerback class. They did a lot of work in the portal, bringing in young talent, guys with multiple years of eligibility. But you got to keep on recruiting cornerbacks. Then, of course, Darion Coleman. Shannon Dawson was out visiting him this week. This is the quarterback out of Orlando Jones, a high school right next to where the Pop-Tarts Bowl was. He had a huge season, lost in the championship game to Malachi Tony and American Heritage. I was there in person along with some of the folks that listened to the show. Met a lot of Canes Insight fans out there, but he played well. Didn't pass the ball as much as he wanted to. It was more of a running threat in that game, but he had a huge junior year, throwing the ball all over the place to guys like Vernell Brown. There he is with Shannon Dawson, and he's going to be the quarterback of the future. I think he's ranked 23rd right now among quarterbacks. He'll rank pretty similar to Luke Nickel, kind of your borderline 4-star player at this time. But really, it's about size with him. His arm strength is there.
More importantly, is that a Smoky Bones or is that a Twin Peaks?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar. What's Smoky Bones? I'm not. That's more like, you know that from traveling around the country.
Smoky Bones. I mean, there used to be a bunch of them in Central Florida. It was like a barbecue place. I remember watching the 2003 NBA draft there with LeBron and D Wade, and it was like one of those places where they had like a speaker at your table and you could change it to the TV. But it that might be a Twin Peaks. I don't know. I can't tell.
Yeah, we'll get to the bottom of that one, but. Shannon Dawson going to Central Florida, doing his thing, and meeting up with Miami's top quarterback. But let's talk about some of the top players really that Miami's zeroing in on, right? Maybe potential early commitments, maybe guys that aren't going to commit early, but the Miami's putting a lot of pressure on early here in this class. So, let's start with somebody who just got 2 players who just got crystal ball to Miami by Gabby Rudia, 24/7 Sports, and the guys that, based on my information, are certainly in Miami's crosshairs and make a lot of sense as some early commitments to join the names that we discussed. So let's start with Javen Mallerie, 5'11", 200 pounds out of West Boca. This is a South Florida back. West Boca won their first ever state championship this season, and Javen Mallerie was a big reason why, although he missed some time. He had injuries that he dealt with, but averaged over 10 yards per carry for the second year in a row. 2023, when he was able to play the full year, 1,400 yards plus, 10.8 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns. This is somebody who is extraordinarily productive. There you see him there with the crew visiting him. But he's four-star player, number 19 running back in America. I went over some of the production with him, and Pete's pulling up the huddle here. Again, you see the numbers down. That was simply because he didn't play that much. I think he only played like 6 games. But he is very, very instinctive, great feet, great balance, physical. Look at the footwork and vision there. He's a classic running back. When I watch this guy, he's not like a Willis McGahee, right? That's like a freak of nature with size and speed. He's very much a natural runner, running people over, again, making guys miss in close quarters, over 10 yards of carry. So the production is no question. He's always flying upfield, not a lot of wasted motion in what he does. Kind of reminds me, and again, I hate comparisons because you got to be very clear. I'm not saying he is I don't think he is the caliber of player as this guy, but style of player, like a Frank Gore type runner. Again, not Frank Gore caliber, Frank Gore style. And you see it when you see him run, just kind of the way he attacks the line, the footwork, the physicality right there, the balance, the vision. That is his type of back. He's not a speedster by any means, but 10 yards of carry, you're extremely productive, making a lot of chunk plays. I don't know if this will be the only back in the class. In fact, I think he probably won't be, but he's somebody who I think will be, look at the finish right there with the physicality, part of a rotation that is very productive for the Miami Hurricanes and is a 4-star top 20 running back in the country.
No, that's a strong build, man. And he's moving his feet, man. The way he keeps his feet moving, it's would love to add this guy to the class. Hey, and Kevin Dennis says D-Money hates comparisons. That's news to me. He hates comparisons because of what people make from the comparisons that he gives. But it's his fault for doing it. That's why.
I like making them, but then I have to clarify every time. Like, there's a difference between the caliber of prospect
and the style, whether it's body type or play type, like the style, the running style.
Right. So
that's what you're talking about.
So running style, I would say his running style is very much like a Frank Gore. In terms of his impact, I would say more of a rotational back that is productive as part of a rotation and gets positive yards, physical, doesn't lose a lot of yards and keeps your running game on time. So the impact is not third leading rusher of all time, but there's just the style of running. You look at those open field cuts. Again, you see those just efficient cuts and the great feet here getting upfield. So I think this would be part of their class for Miami. Miami's been in on some big time guys. You look at their class. They had Tredarian Bell, who's committed to Oregon, the number 2 running back overall in the country. He was on campus, or he visited. He's someone shown interest in the past. So they've been involved with some bigger name backs than Javen Mallerie, but he's the one they're certainly the most momentum with, and he is a top 20 back, depending where you look. Miami's brought in top 10 backs the last few years with first Fletcher, then Lyle, then Pringle. Mallory's not quite in that category, but he is a solid 4-star back. And again, I think he'd just be part of the process there for the Canes.
Gio says, fire up the thread on Canes Inside. D-Money says Mallerie will be better than Frank Gore.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time before I get hit with that one. But yeah, did not say that. But look, there's a guy I think I'd love to add. I think this guy would be a very productive piece of the pie. And, South Florida backs have slipped a little bit in recent years. You haven't had like the kind of spectacular backs that we've had in the past that are, the Dalvin Cooks of the world, right? The guys that are top of the board players. But you did have James Cook, who's one of the top running backs in the NFL right now. And then a lot of guys who made the NFL. I think this is the kind of guy that maybe he's not going to be a first round pick, but you could see him potentially making the NFL down the line.
So running backs are great, but you got to have the guys to block for them. And the staff is already, locally hitting one of their top targets here, and that's Ryan Merrett.
Yeah, Ryan Merrett. And by the way, someone mentioned Derek Cooper from Chaminade as a potential guy to pair with Mallory. I should have mentioned that. There we go, Nick. Appreciate you. Derek Cooper. He is a 5-star player from Chaminade. Plays running back, plays linebacker, significant Miami interest. All the big schools are after him, but Miami's really interested in him. I personally like him at linebacker. I think that's where he could be the best, but he's a 5-star player, 5-star athlete. You take him a running back and figure it out. So a Cooper, Mallory backfield, that's something that could be shaping up here for the Miami Hurricanes. You already have Darian Coleman at quarterback. But, Pete, before I cut you off, Ryan Merrett, offensive lineman from Southridge, alma mater of Pedro Ariz.
Yeah. First graduating class of Southridge. He's very, very proud of that fact. He's in the rafters there for something other than sports.
Is he really?
Yeah, I think he's a Hall of Famer there. Yeah. I went there one time and he told me, walk into school. It was for Jamal Carter's commitment. I was in the trenches, man. I was really in deep, man. So I walk into school. He says, there's going to be a plaque here. I was in this here or whatever. So it was there. I remember taking a picture of it. So
shout out to Pedro Ariz.
Yeah, and his dad. So Ryan Merrett's dad is the principal of Southridge, as Canes Cats Heat is also alluding to here.
Really interesting background on this kid. Pete, pull up the tweets that I posted, but this guy's 6'4", 290 listed. I think that's accurate. One of these tweets you'll see is him next to Zach Carpenter, and you see his size. Dad's the principal, like you mentioned, 3-star player, number 49 interior offensive lineman. I think that ranking might be a little low. But part of the reason is this guy's a regional champion wrestler, number 1 ranked heavyweight in the state. There you see him next to Zach Carpenter. Zach Carpenter's a pretty big center, pretty tall center. So Merrett, obviously not as wide at this stage of his development, but the height's there with him. And I think he's going to, he's a wrestler. So he's losing tons of calories every time he steps on the mat. I think when he starts putting on that weight, he can get to a similar size at center, also with the ability to play guard. A lot of power forward interest, Gators in the mix, the Canes in the mix, Ole Miss in the mix. But Miami has a real shot at him. Of course, he's local. There you see him regionally wrestling. He's a regional champ, number 1 ranked wrestler right now in the heavyweight division. I mean, look at this dude right here. Look at the hip.
Give us the play-by-play. Give us the play-by-play.
Just good leverage, good balance. With that toss, he's the leaner wrestler right here. But then again, look at that. We got the footwork to trip, and then boom, flips him over. He's lean, man. That's the thing I take from him. He's definitely not heavy. He's going to put on a lot of weight. Watching him on the football field, people, you pull up the huddle of this guy, you see he's still a little raw on offensive line because he was predominantly a defensive lineman. But because he's a defensive lineman and wrestler, he has that athleticism. He has that balance at center. He has that tenacity to finish and the ability to kind of torque guys and use his wrestling background. And while he still also plays defensive tackle, so he didn't stop playing defensive tackle and he's still productive there. So I think he's a guy with a lot of upside. He's going to get stronger and heavier when he stops wrestling. And I think his pad level will improve, all the things that Mirabal can work with him on. But the nastiness, the athleticism, that's kind of hard to coach. You just got to have it or you don't. He has it. He's a nasty finisher. And again, I think the size to me stands out, just the height. Because, it's hard to take too many centers. You took CJ Alafatuli last year as the best center in the country. You're trying to get a guy like Grant Wise, we'll talk about in a second. But with Merrett, yeah, he playing center, but he could also play guard, kind of like a Ryan Rodriguez type as far as the profile. Just get him in your system, develop him, put him somewhere on the interior offensive line, cross-train him. And I think he's got a really, really, really nice upside because of the athleticism and because of the ability to play with balance and win these battles. He's a wrestler. So, Mirabal, going back to his time at Marshall and FIU, has always loved wrestlers as one of his favorite sports to sort of, grab guys from. And Merrett's someone who is wrestling at the highest level. Southridge, traditionally strong wrestling program.
Wow, Country Kane says, "What up, D Money and Mike? Good show." I'm Pete. I appreciate the support, man. Thank you for watching. Mike is on our Wednesday shows.
Yep. Some shout out to Mike. Shout out to Wild Country Kane. You got my name right, so he's my boy. Appreciate you. Listen to the show. But yeah, again, I think especially with the 105 scholarships. And this is not like a walk-on type player. I mean, this guy's got power forward interests all over the place, SEC, ACC. But I would say if you're going to sign a position in bulk, offensive line's a pretty good one to sign. You need a lot. You got to run three teams, first team, second team, third team, scout team. So you got to have a lot of guys to get through practices. Plus, Mirabal's your best teacher on the staff right now. We'll see who gets added, but I'd say Mirabal is clearly the best teacher and has had the best units going back to Oregon. So give him a lot of guys to work with talent, with traits, with the right mindset, and he'll be able to give you waves of players with versatility and with the ability to help your program. So I'm all for feeding Mirabal more prospects and letting him work with them.
All right, you want to talk about seatbelt?
Yeah, let's talk about a position where, just as like offensive line is a position where Miami was arguably the best in the country this year. I'd say Miami and Notre Dame, probably the two best offensive lines in America, maybe Miami being the number one offensive line when you talk about pass blocking and run blocking. But the cornerback position, Miami really, really, really struggled. Coach Chevis Jackson is no longer with the Miami Hurricanes. He has now moved on to Wake Forest. We don't know who the DB coach is going to be. That'll be a whole nother episode, but Miami is clearly looking to upgrade its defensive back room, its cornerback room, brought in a ton of guys through the portal. Ethan O'Connor, Emmanuel Carnley, Charles Brantley, maybe Xavier Lucas when it's all said and done. But got to keep bringing high school guys, and big-time target here, Jaylen Waters. You see him there with Miami's new defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman. Big smile on his face because he can recruit 6'2" corners that you might not find always in Minnesota. So he goes to Sefner with analyst Juan Navarro. This is a guy, man. You're seeing him as Lakeland High. You're seeing just as, this is somebody who they call him seatbelt because of his coverage ability. 6'2", 170, currently committed to Florida, and he is just a pure cover corner. Pete, I got the quick cut too, the junior film, so put that one on there. It's in the rundown. But Jaylen Waters, 6'2", 170. They call him seatbelt because of his coverage ability. Number 14 cornerback in the composite, 4-star, plays for Raw Miami with Coach Duaso, which has been a pipeline 7-on-7 program for the Miami Hurricanes. Last year, you get Bryce Fitzgerald out of there. Ezekiel Marshall and Amari Wallace had Hilton Stubbs committed. He switched at the last second. So that's a pipeline program for as far as 7-on-7 for Miami. And then Armwood. Talk about the Armwood pipeline. There's Rob in the comments. Need to keep that Armwood pipeline going. That school's eluded us for the last 25 years. It absolutely has. It used to be a house of horrors. I remember we'd always lose guys to Florida and other schools from Armwood. Now it's starting to turn around. Last year's class, you got Gerard Pringle, the top 10 running back, and Kellen Wiley, the linebacker. You beat Texas out for him. Extremely excited about him. His dad's always on the show. Just appreciate Kellen Wiley Sr. Kellen Wiley Jr. looks like an absolute monster in some of these pictures from the early trainings. But Waters played with both those guys last year. Again, top 15 corner, 6'2", with coverage ability, good feet. I mean, you always want to get those guys. You want to get as many of those guys as possible. It was great to get guys like Ethan O'Connor and Carnley this year as redshirt freshmen with production, but those guys are expensive. Much better off to get them in high school and develop them internally like an O.J. Frederic, another long athletic corner. Waters doesn't play a lot of wide receiver or any other positions, but he is a pure corner, similar to Portis in that respect, another long 4-star corner in this class. You got one committed. You'd love to add some more. Jaylen Waters, Florida commit, who has visited Miami. Of course, saw Miami visiting him. Cristobal visited him as well earlier this period. They look at the ball skills there. They would love to add this player, and sooner than later. And he is on flip watch from the Florida Gators. We'll be visiting this weekend. Miami will make every effort to pull him away from the Florida Gators and add to this class. So if you talk about guys that you could add early, I mentioned Mallory and Merrett, both guys that Gabby Rudia put in the crystal ball for. And again, I could see that based on what I know. There's another one to potentially put on commit watch and would be a huge addition, 4-star player at a premium position.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
It has nothing to do really with the player himself. I give Jaylen Seatbelt Waters a lot of credit for actually getting to claim the nickname Seatbelt, because I haven't seen any other corners or DBs with the nickname. I will say the celebrations played out. Every DB does it, the seatbelt celebration. Like, I give him credit for taking the nickname, but I'm tired of seeing the celebration from people in the secondary, especially when half the time it's just an overthrow.
Yeah, I thought the best one this year was Elijah Arroyo doing it after breaking up a sure interception.
Yes.
Down the sideline.
Yes.
That was a pretty good one. Kevin Dennis saying staff must have a strong haul after summer official visits. Can't play catch up this year. I agree. You want to see this class be a top 10 class heading into the season. Carry on the momentum from your 10-win season. It's the 10-win season helps you more with these 26 kids than with the 25 kids, because the 25 class, the hay was pretty much in the barn by the time the season started, right? So that was really more of a product of the 7-6 season, whereas this hopefully will be a product of the 10-3 season, and then enter into the 25 football season as a top 10 class, at least in America. Jaylen Waters, number 15 corner in the country, he would certainly boost that ranking.
Canes Cat C305 says no DBs have a nickname. You're wrong about that, man. Honey Badgers. That's to me the go-to nicknames.
Prime time.
Brian Dawkins. What about Prime Time? What about Brian Dawkins? Was he the Predator or the Terminator? What was he? Was one of those two, right?
Yeah, that one doesn't ring a bell. Prime time though, for sure. That Revis Island.
I think he was Terminator. Revis Island. I think he was Terminator. I think that's what Brian Dawkins was. Comments help me out, please.
I don't know what Canes Cat's talking about. Sauce Gardner. I mean, people don't even know his actual name. So,
but everyone's doing the celebration, but they're not claiming the nickname. That's what I'm giving them credit for. So,
Seatbelt Waters. No, I love it. Some folks who don't need a nickname, that is Beacon Adjusters. If your property has been affected by Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Milton or any other storm, Beacon Adjustors Group is here to help. With years of experience handling storm-related damage, we work tirelessly to ensure you get the compensation you deserve. From assessment to settlement, our team of trusted experts will guide you every step of the way. Don't face the aftermath alone. Let Beacon Adjustors Group restore your peace of mind. Call us today, 954-466-4224, 954-466-4224. That's Beacon Adjusters. Again, that's not just Florida. That's Georgia, California, Texas, everything in between. They're national, just like Miami Recruiting's national. Beacon Adjusters. Defrost, it was Weapon X, Brian.
Weapon X. I'm just an idiot then. Apparently not as much of an idiot as Canes Cat C305 is. Guys, that's my boy off air, so he can take it.
Speaking of Canes Cat, he's asking what are some must-get players in 26, and we're going through some of them. I would say Kenya Pepe, right? Samoan left tackle for IMG. You got to keep those guys. You got to keep that pipeline going at offensive tackle. I think locally you got a lot of great guys. Derek Cooper from Chaminade, Calvin Russell, the wide receiver from Northwestern, Javari J-Rock Flowers, the corner from Northwestern. He might be the biggest one given his position and the need at that spot. Who else do we got locally? I know I'm missing some folks. Jordan Campbell, got to keep him as a linebacker with a tremendous amount of talent. Just a lot of local guys this year, more than usual that are top of the line players that can really help you. Those are some of them. I'd say Calvin Russell though, a big one. And, Jason Lopez, I see Canes Cat mentioning him. He seems like the classic guy that we're just screaming for us to pursue all year. So I don't know where that's at. I'm going to ask somebody now where Jason Lopez is the wide receiver.
Huge fan of his.
But he's going to be a stud. We got to get that guy.
He's a baller in basketball too. I saw his clips the other day. They were playing someone locally. Canes Cat C305 helped me out. I know you saw it too, but he's a real hooper.
Yeah, he is different than Restrepo. Everybody's going to compare it to Restrepo because Restrepo's a first-team All-America, Hispanic, from South Florida, from Broward. But Lopez does other things better as far as ball skills, length, and stuff like that. Restrepo may be better with the ball in his hands, but we got to get both those guys. We got one, obviously. One to the Raptors. We got to get the other one.
This is what it was. It was Calvin Russell and him played a game. I'll send you the highlights, D. I know you'll be interested in that.
Well, let's go pull them out while we're talking here.
Yes. Actually, you know what? We're on live. I can just pull them up. And it's from our boys 305 Sports who do an awesome job covering everything locally here.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. Shout out to Issa, Takes by Issa. She's killing it on Instagram as well. By the way, I'll be at Battle Miami this weekend, which is a huge 7-on-7 tournament, which is why you're seeing a lot of these guys visit. So we'll have some reports about the Battle Miami 7-on-7. See some guys who emerge. Obviously, Team Raw, I'll be watching those guys closely because they got so many guys that go to the program, they go to the pros and go to the program Miami. You saw Camp Kitchens, graduate of that program, the predecessor program, Immortals, but same group of guys. See him in the pros. Former Miami Hurricane up in the rafters. So I'd like to see who the next one of those guys is. A lot of people talk about Jabari Brady. The question as to whether he's better than this guy right here, J-Rock. So there we go. There's this, J-Rock Lopez, Jason Lopez. He is a wide receiver for Chaminade. And then
there's Calvin Russell.
Look at him flying. 5-star player from Northwestern. I mean, his size is unique, but different kinds of games, right? You're seeing Lopez. I mean, he is a true guard. Look at the ball handling and the shooting. He doesn't look the part as far as like, you don't look at him as a wide receiver, just in terms of like, he's not. He looks just like a dude out there hooping, and then you see him, boom.
Can he play for he can play for the Canes hoops team right now if he was in college.
I would recruit both these guys, man. Why not? Let's see who can play. It's not like there's any spots on the basketball team taken right now. It's a tough time right now. The ladies are losing. They're on a skid. The men, I mean, I don't know if they'll win another game. And then, there's a lot of opportunities is what I'm saying. Let's get both these guys a chance to play. I know Syracuse is recruiting Russell at both basketball and football. That's something Miami's going to have to navigate because, his mom is in the Hall of Fame. We were just speaking of ladies hoops. His mom's Calvin Russell's mom is a Hall of Famer on the women's team for the Miami Hurricanes. So, give this guy a shot, man. What do you got to lose? You have no one on your team coming back next year when the portal's done with some of our freshmen. So, something to keep an eye on. A pretty cool highlight. Shout out to 305 Sports. Switching back to the offensive line, right? But staying with the legacy theme. Calvin Russell, legacy. One of the other top legacies in this class, Grant Wise, the offensive lineman from Milton, Pace High School, Milton, Florida, up north. There you see it with Alex Mirabal. This is somebody who's going to have interest from every single team in the country. You look at his actual rating, he's a low 4-star, number 13 interior offensive lineman in the country, 6'3", 310. I think they don't even have him as a 3-star or a 4-star on 247, which is insane. I mean, this guy is one of the absolute best players in America. Look at some of these highlights. I know he's prioritized that way from the Miami Hurricanes. I know other schools. Mike Bobo from the Georgia Bulldogs, the offensive coordinator, was in there to see him, in case you were wondering what kind of schools are recruiting this guy. Son of Ty Wise, former center for the Miami Hurricanes. You see him playing right tackle here. I mean, look at the footwork, the finish, the ability to get low and really strike his target. Is he a center? Is he a guard? I don't think it really matters. I think you just take this guy and figure it out. Let him and Ryan Merrett bully guys in practice. He's a high priority player, as you can see from Mirabal going to visit him. I'm told that his dad is not forcing. His dad, obviously, look, he loves the Canes. He's not forcing him in any school. He's kind of staying out of the process and letting the kid figure it out. He's getting wine and not by every school in the country. But you saw with Mirabal going there to have dinner with them. It wasn't just like a pop-in. He's here to recruit this kid because of the finishing, because of the body type. He's not a fat kid, but somebody with the requisite thickness, the fluidity. He's a big-time player, man. I think we talk about guys that they're getting recruited different than their ranking. I would say Wise is a low 4-star, high 3-star being recruited, like a borderline 5-star. He is a big time player.
Few guys in the class last year who were kind of in the same light and ended up, jumping up the rankings as the season went on. Herbert Scroggins being one that comes to mind. Yep.
And Hayden Lowe. I mean, Hayden Lowe was like, he wasn't a borderline 3. I think he was just like a mid to low 4. And Miami recruited like a 5-star. Now he probably will receive his 5-star after the Navy All-America game from 247 at least. Fire Marie's asking, didn't his dad play for UM about Wise? Yeah, that's Ty Wise's son, center in the late 90s for the Miami Hurricanes. I watched him when I was a kid. He was a stud. This guy's more talented, though. Ty Wise was a really tough player, really good college player. Grant Wise just more physically gifted. And maybe, some guys that he's been going against on the defensive line. Recruiting on the defensive line is essential. You got to get elite high school players. Oh, there you go. D. Saint reminds me of Connor Liu. Guy that Miami recruited for center, ended up going to Auburn, decommitted from Miami, going to Auburn, and being a really, really good player for Auburn, one of the best centers in the country, young centers in the country. Miami was able to rebound with CJ Alafatuli, kind of bridging the gap with these transfer portal centers. Was Matt Lee, Zach Carpenter, now Brockermeyer from Texas Christian. Alafatuli probably be the center of the future. He looked awesome in the Under Armour All-America game. But you just keep bringing in these talented offensive linemen. You don't want to stack too many pure centers, but I think Wise and Merrett they're just offensive linemen. You can put them at guard, you can put them at center. You just want them in your building because of what they can do. And the need to block guys like Kendall Gorell from Fort Myers. To me, the position that you really need to win in high school recruiting, there's two. One is cornerback, which we talked about a couple quarters earlier. The other is defensive line, particularly big defensive line. Guys over 260 pounds. Kendall Gorell from Fort Myers. I mean, look at this dude. He's got SEC interests all over the place. He's rated just outside the top 100 right now, but he's going to be a top 100 player. Easy 4-star. You see the knockback. You see the power. Big bone kid. Plays low. Has that knockback power. You had Myron Charles from this area last year as a 4-star player with the Texas. I think this guy's better. Just more powerful, more coordinated, more of a war daddy. He's visited Miami twice. Miami has extreme interest in this guy, and they're going to fight pretty much the entire SEC for him. Not about 2.5 hours from campus, so he's semi-local. Look at him just toss guys. Someone like this, man, it's the natural power in their body. There's guys that are strong, there's guys that are big, but power, the more you watch college football, and the more you study recruiting, the most underrated attribute, in my opinion, is power, knockback ability. Francis Mauigoa, one of the most powerful players in the country. You saw him immediately become that top player. Now Matt Miller from ESPN saying he might be the number 1 overall prospect next year, talking about Francis Mauigoa. Ruben Bain, somebody who outperformed his high school ranking just because of his power and his ability to knock guys back. I think Gorell, that's what you see on film. You see fluidity, you see size, you see athleticism, but more than anything, you see the ability to knock back offensive linemen and just toss them to the side. So this is a must-get player. You got to win recruiting battles on the defensive line. You won a lot of them last year with Armando Blunt, Justin Scott, Artavius Jones. I think you've taken a step back maybe this past class with more project-type players. You did win a battle for Hayden Lowe, who you could put in that category as a 250-pounder. But you need to win battles for big, highly athletic, highly recruited defensive linemen over 260 pounds.
Couple more guys to get to here, D. One of them being a sibling of a current Miami Hurricane.
Yeah, so this is a guy I saw on campus during spring, said hi to him, talked to the family a little bit, and it's a familiar name, Germaine Kinsler. He is the brother of Tommy Kinsler, offensive lineman for the Hurricanes. There you see him, number 88, and you may be saying, hey, that doesn't look like Ocala, Florida, and you'd be right. He is from Bergen Catholic in New Jersey. He moved up there. His brother went to Miami. He moved up from Ocala up to Bergen Catholic, played basketball and football. 6'7". You see the frame is outstanding. He is up to 260 pounds. Number 1 overall player in New Jersey. So 4-star player in New Jersey, a school that's been so good to Miami historically. 2001 Canes famously had multiple starters, I think up to 4 starters from New Jersey on that team. So New Jersey's been great to Miami. Most recently, you saw David Njoku going in the first round from New Jersey. So it's a natural fit for the Canes. But there's a Florida boy, Ocala player, who happens to be the number 1 player in New Jersey. You see him playing tight end on offense, blocking, catching touchdowns, playing all across the line, defensive end, defensive tackle, has the size. His brother's 320 plus. This guy's 260, 6'7", and really excels on the basketball court. Pete, why don't you pull up his basketball highlights? I got him here on the rundown so you could see. I believe that he, in Bergen Catholic, as D points out, that's a powerhouse. Cafe saying we need a football pipeline in New Jersey. This is a school that I believe he was recruited not to play football necessarily, but also to play basketball. 6'7", from Ocala, not exactly a basketball hotbed, goes up to New Jersey private school, which is much more of a basketball scene. And look at my man here shooting these lefty threes. This is a defensive line prospect. You can see why schools like Ohio State are so hot after him. Look at the athleticism and really more skill. Boom.
Looks like Marvin Bagley.
I was going to say it looks like a left-handed Peter Rees. 10
have
points,
that length out there, man. 5
boards, 1 steal. So this is from this year. So really his football highlights don't wow me when you talk about the number 1 overall player in New Jersey with interest from everybody. But I think it's more the frame, the ability to put on weight, and then the athleticism as a basketball player that makes Germaine Kinsler, an interesting player. And like I said, I met him at spring. Oh, shout out to Grandpa Jim. There you go. Still catching some of your shows. Will Oregon State have some pods to watch? LOL. So Grandpa Jim, grandfather of Riley Williams, who's since transferred to Oregon State, is a big fan of his upside and ability. So great question. And Grandpa Jim, I'll tell you this, Group Chat Sports, which me and Peter are doing every day. We, with YouTube channel, we just started it like a few weeks ago. We already got over 1,000 subscribers. We've been doing videos on just transactions, moves all across the country. We'll be covering spring football. We'll be covering recruiting. We cover the transfer portal, coaching moves. We go live every single day, and you can see we cover a lot of different topics all across the country, and that's a lot of fun. We talked about Oregon State. We talked about Malik Murphy, who will be throwing passes to Riley Williams next year. I think it was a great fit, great development for Riley that he's able to play with Malik Murphy there at Oregon State. You proven quarterback, guy who's throwing the ball well at the ACC level. There you go. We were surprised that he went there, right? Because you looked at the uncertainty around Oregon State, but then when we dug into it, it made a lot of sense. Had a lot of Oregon State fans chiming in on the pickup, and I think guys like Riley Williams will make his life a lot easier. Miami was able to get Alex Bauman to try to take some of that production from Riley Williams, but I think they still have more work to do in the portal. We'll see if Jack Nickel, the brother of Luke Nickel, who's 260 pounds, can fill in some of the blocking that Riley did, because Riley was an absolutely beastly inline blocker despite coming into Miami as a receiving tight end. So appreciate you, Grandpa Jim, and all your support, man. We'll make sure when Riley catches a touchdown, we'll shout him out, and maybe we'll talk about him on Group Chat Sports. I still think he's an NFL player all day.
Without a doubt.
We got some questions here, Pete, before we move on to the next topic. Juan Manuel Ventura asking, how do you see Miami using Hayden Lowe? I think number one, right away, right? He's already on campus, went straight from the Navy All-America game where he was excellent to Miami. I'm sure he's excited about getting potentially that fifth star from 247. He measured officially there 6'5", 250 with long arms, 34-inch plus, and 10-inch plus hands. So verified size. I already knew he was big because I saw him at spring last year and thought he was an NFL player. Just walking around, I thought he was some alum like Jamal Green or someone like that. So this guy is ready to go physically. Great motor. Highly productive at 16 plus sacks, one of the more productive edge rushers in the country as far as the top guys, and has the athleticism and burst, which you saw in the Navy game. That's why they're trying to give him that fifth star. Miami's compared him internally to Kayvon Thibodeau, went to the same high school as Kayvon Thibodeau. Kayvon Thibodeau played very early. Miami thinks he could be that kind of player. Of course, Mario recruited and signed Kayvon Thibodeau, developed him, and sent him on to the top 5 of the NFL draft. His coach was, again, also Coach Thibodeau, his high school coach. He makes the same comp and thinks he's on that level. So based on that, if he follows that trajectory, Hayden Lowe would play right away. He has the size to do it. I think base end, him, Cole McCon. Look, we'll see with Heatherman what he wants to do, right? Because he's bringing in a new scheme. But I think you put Hayden Lowe in with like the Messidors, the Baines, the McConaugheys, guys that are bigger defensive ends as opposed to like the Lightfoots, Booker Pickett's, Elias Rudolph's, Malik Bryant's, Herbert Scroggins, guys that are more athletic, trying to rush the passer.
Kevin Dennis says, got to play him earlier or he'll get homesick.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, with these out-of-state guys, it's hard to keep them. You got with the portal area, you got to play them. You got to keep them engaged. And look, at 250 pounds, you should be able to get something out of him, especially if he plays hard with high motor. O'Brien's got a question, Pete. Once you get this ready for our friends here, he's asking, have you showed Heatherman or Beck that Islas Canarias, referring to the #1 Cuban restaurant in America, Islas Canarias? You can go to the Dayland Mall food court, also known as the Dining Pavilion, and they got the full menu. They got the classic ham, voted best croqueta in Miami every single year, world famous. But they also got the bistec empanizado. They got just the normal bistec on the grill right there. All the accompaniments. Plus, if you want to get adventurous, they got different takes on the croqueta along with the classic ham. Absolute best Cuban food in America. Ask somebody. They already know. You go to the Dining Pavilion, Dayland Mall. The line's out the door, but it moves fast because they got a lot of great employees working there, and everybody's got a smile on their face. Islas Canarias, spot where Cubans shop. And if you want to eat like a Cuban, eat Cuban food like a Cuban, go to Islas Canarias. That's the authentic, real deal Holyfield, 40 years and running.
Without a doubt.
Jamaica Kane saying, you got a player right now from New Jersey, Juan Minaya, who we haven't talked about, from Paramus Catholic, right? So that's another one that was on campus and didn't play a lot this year. More of a developmental season for him, but definitely a big body player. Mirabal likes to stack developmental guys, talented guys, guys with upside. He's not afraid to take on somebody with more projection, Juan Minaya being one of them. Germaine Kinsler would be another big body to add, and someone with even more pedigree, being that 4-star recruit with interest from Ohio State, SEC, all over the place. Brandon asking, is a good comp for Low Abdul Carter? Shoot, I hope so. That'd be a great one. He's probably the best player in the country, or one of them. But I think he's probably not as explosive. Abdul Carter was a defensive end. Or sorry, was a linebacker that transitioned to defensive end. Super fast and explosive. Hayden Lowe, more of a strong physical player. I mean, I think the Thibodeau comp is a pretty good one, man. Thibodeau was always a true defensive end with size and the ability to knock guys back. Checking his high school specs here for Thibodeau when he was, I believe, the number 1 overall player in the country when Mario signed him. Number 5-star player. Yeah, so he was, again, Oaks Christian, Thousand Oaks, California, LA area, same exact high school. He was 6'4.5", 240. So he's actually smaller than what you see from Hayden Lowe at the Army All-America game, but he ran a 4.67 in high school, so he was cooking. So maybe a slightly slower, slightly stronger version of Kayvon Thibodeau for Hayden Lowe. Jay saying, you have benefited big time from having legacy recruits last cycle. Is that possible for us this year? You hope so, right? Between Calvin Russell, mom in the Hall of Fame for women's basketball.
Camden Portis is in the class already.
Grant Wise, son of Ty Wise. That's a nice fit there. A few more. I gotta just think. I know there's a couple others that you hope to land, but yeah, the legacies could be helpful for the Canes, at least with those 3 who are big time targets. One already in the boat, one you're really pushing hard on Grant Wise and Calvin Russell, and one you got to have. You can't lose the top receiver in Dade County again. You lost it with Jeremiah Smith, Miami native, went to Ohio State, probably the best player in the country. Up there with Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter and Cam Ward and the elite players. Can't lose guys like that. Calvin Russell's not where Jeremiah Smith is in terms of his development. Jeremiah Smith was so focused, so polished, on top of the crazy physical traits. I think Calvin Russell's got similar freakishly physical traits, size, athleticism. He's just not as polished and far along as Jeremiah Smith. So maybe he wouldn't do what Jeremiah Smith did as a freshman, but down the line could be a very, very impactful player, legitimate 5-star talent. Calvin Russell, got to get him. Can't let him go to Syracuse, who's recruiting him hard in basketball and football. He visited for the game and saw, those guys catch a lot of passes.
You wanted to talk about some news that happened with Darren Smith here, who's been inducted into the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so shout out to Darren Smith, one part of the famed Bermuda Triangle with Jesse Armstead, Michael Barrow. All 3 of those guys, I believe, made Pro Bowls. There's all certainly were legitimate big-time NFL linebackers. Best linebacking core in Miami history, one of the best linebacking cores in the history of college football, period. And Darren Smith now makes his way to the Hall of Fame. He was someone known for his speed and his IQ. One of the smartest players during that initial Miami run, honors everything, just incredibly book smart, but also smart on the field, and then had speed. This was an era where you still had those big, slow linebackers, and Darren Smith was someone who ran like a safety at the linebacker position. Jesse Armstead also ran like the wind. So that's what made this group so special at the linebacker position. And look, there you see some old highlights here. Look at this guy, man. What a stud. Those uniforms will never be topped. That's just a different shade of orange. There you see him against Penn State. Michael Barrow about ready to make the play. This is something we miss, is these just elite linebackers. You see all of them in the frame at all times. Barrow, Smith, and Armstead. You don't really see 3 linebackers on the field like that anymore. But with the guys like this, you could do it because they are so fast. Darren Smith, really a modern type of player, even though he played in an earlier era. You can put him right in this era, and his speed, quickness, and athleticism would translate right away in his IQ. And look, let's take it back to 91 on Green Tree. This is when Green Tree All-Americans were real All-Americans, and you got Darren Smith with a young D-Money there in the black shirt. So I've been scouting the Green Tree All-Americans since I was, 6 years old. So you got a 6-year-old D-Money there with Darren Smith, very graciously taking the picture with me and my cousins. So
we had a funny comment here. D, someone said, "Is that Pete hugging Mike?"
You would hug Mike.
That would have been a serious, we've been there from the beginning sort of thing. But people don't realize, man, that's a good look on you, man. People think we're the same age. So
Yeah, no, it's been a while, man. I was 6. That was 91. Yeah, so I was born in 85. So I was 6, now almost 40. And the Canes are still looking for linebackers like that. They don't come around often. They do
True.
not come around often. Hopefully get some of this recruiting class. Look, you saw some Miami gear. Miami gear's come a long way since then, even though Harry Rothwell has been running Miami apparel since back then, right? Harry Rothwell, the king of Miami apparel, he has moved his shop to the Miami Hurricane team store. It's the official team store of the Miami Hurricanes, located across the street from the university next to the Thesis Hotel. If you want to go online, miamihts.com. That's what you're looking at right now. Use promo code INSIGHT20. You get 20% off online, 20% off in person, your first item. Just go, if you're there in person, just say, hey, Canes Insight. They'll know exactly what it is. They got a button on the cashier for our discount code. And again, if you're online, Insight20, get the basketball gear. Reminiscing of the times when we were good at basketball. Unfortunate season for Canes basketball, men's basketball, and the ladies are on a bit of a skid, but the gear doesn't go out of style.
Baseball coming up too. You got the baseball gear here coming up with the season just around the corner.
Oh, I like that one. I like that shirt. That's my next purchase. You'll see that one on the Canes Inside podcast. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Made in Honduras. I don't know what that means. If that's good or not. But I've had those shirts, those Adidas shirts. The material is fantastic. They fit like a glove. So shout out to Harry, shout out to Jeremy and the entire team store team. Yeah, Juan Manuel saying Darren Smith covered like a safety. He really did. That was his thing. And Jesse Armstead was really athletic as well. Got injured, tore his ACL back when ACL tears used to be like career enders. Got drafted in the 8th round, which existed back then. Played special teams. Ended up starring for the Giants, becoming an All-Pro player, Hall of Fame candidate. He didn't make it, but he was on the list for the Giants. So shows you just the depth of talent. We all know Mike Barrow is as well. So unbelievable. Hope to get that one day. Add some linebackers that can run, hit, and cover, and think the game at that level would be nice.
Without a doubt. Remember to keep it locked on Canes Insight with all the recruiting news that's going to be happening here with these 2026 guys. Keep it locked on the website, completely free. Sign up, join the discussion on the message boards. Got the recruiting board, got the football board, the eye in the sky. So go check it out, canesinsight.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel as we go daily, Monday through Friday, and we go live. So join the discussion, join the comment section, ask questions as we do this every day.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.